Hello, Internet. Hello, real people here in the room. Thank you very much for being here with us. This is a session where we're going to talk about creativity, new frontiers of creativity. You know that some people believe that the future of business is in art, that artists are always the first to embrace new possibilities and new technologies. More specifically, today we will explore virtual reality, mixed reality, robotics, and we will look at what artists are currently doing with these new technologies. So we'll have a film director or VR film director with us and a roboticist, and they're both going to be on stage. But first, I'm going to welcome our first speaker. She's a virtual reality and mixed reality director. Maybe she's going to explain the difference between virtual and mixed reality. She's the founder of the New Reality company, and she actually is the creator of the 3VR installation I hope you tried, that is available in the back of the room there. Please help me welcome Milica Zec.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here. My name is Milica Zec, and I was born in a country that doesn't exist anymore. It was called Yugoslavia, and by the time I was 17, I lived through 2 wars, of which one took place literally in my own backyard. My sister and I grew up in a house filled with literature, music, books, and love. And our 2 parents were deeply committed in, translating their passion for all things creative. At that time, I couldn't make a sense. I worried if I'll ever be able to make a sense of this enormous disconnect of what was going on inside my house and what was taking place outside of it. But my survival instinct forced me to try to forget all these negative experiences I went to. And eventually, my film career brought me to New York, where I decided to have a fresh start. But as my teacher always used to say, everything you run away from will eventually catch up with you. And after 9 years of living in New York, it did catch up with me. And for this, I will be forever grateful. I met a scriptwriter, Lizzie Donahue, and with her, I shared the story of my growing up. Something that I rarely shared before. And to Lizzie, it sounded like a movie, and she suggested, why don't we make a film about a family trying to survive in a war zone? I instantly rejected her proposal because I wanted to leave the past exactly where it belonged, in the past. But the idea had a different idea, and it lingered in my head. And after several months, I picked up the phone and called Lizzie and told her, if you write a script, I will direct a film. I secretly hope that she will no longer be interested, as when one makes a difficult but yet important decision, a powerful wave of fear is almost never far behind. But Lizzie was still passionate about this project, and we began working on the script. So I had no choice but to move forward. We decided to tell a story about a family hiding in a war zone. And after a few months of working on a script, I realized that simply making a film as a 2-dimensional project wouldn't be able to convey all these feelings and realism that I wanted to translate. And because I was already familiar with the early works of virtual reality, I noticed the enormous potential of storytelling in this new medium. And I decided then it dawned on me, let's place audience inside the film so we can actually translate all of these feelings and emotions that people are going through. The next person I called was my friend and longtime collaborator, Winslow Porter, and who already worked in virtual reality. So I asked him to join the project. He instantly said yes, and we went on this quest together. The only catch, aside of not having any money, team, office space, or equipment, we actually didn't know anyone who had used virtual reality technology in exactly the same way we wanted to achieve our goals. And when we approached people to tell them about our idea, We met mainly with skepticism and disbelief, but there were some few enthusiastic responses like, good luck, guys. But our belief and passion about Giant, that became the name of our project, was so contagious that within a few months, we had assembled a team of 50 creatives, our friends and colleagues who all work in like video games or film, and we all collectively made this project into life. We were accepted to Sundance Film Festival, and we stopped sleeping for the next 3 months in order to make it happen. I really didn't know how the audience is going to react, but I said to myself, if only one person truly understands through this project how does it feel to be an innocent family trapped in a war zone, then we would have succeeded in our mission. But the reactions to the Giant were so powerful that people kept coming out of installation in tears, telling us that they now understand what others are going through. And also, strangers started sharing their intimate stories about themselves, their loved ones, and the world at large. Before we could wrap our heads around the response that Giant got, Giant was already invited to 30 festivals all around the world, leaving people everywhere with almost identical reactions, and most importantly, with newly opened conversations about the horrible situation that 840 million of our fellow human beings find themselves in right now. So when Giant was completed, I thought, okay, I conquered this fear and barrier inside of myself. I don't have it anymore. But when the new project came, where we wanted to show how we as humans destroy nature, again, a powerful wave of fear came to me, even stronger than what I felt in Giant. I started asking myself, who am I to talk about climate change, about fate of this planet, about species? But the more fear wanted to stop me, the more I knew I was on the right track, and this story had to be told. In Tree, we wanted to personalize climate change, and we wanted to place you in a body of a tree so that you get to witness firsthand how does it feel to be born, thrive, grow, and as a culmination, destroyed by humans. Winslow and I once again decided to use virtual reality to tell this story, and also added extra sensory elements to it, such as wind, temperature, vibration on your body, so you feel the growth of the tree. And we also partnered with Rainforest Alliance, who helped us depict this rainforest in the most accurate way, and assembled a team of 70 creatives who helped us bring this project again to life. The project premiered at Sundance, and once again, we were not sure how people are going to react to it. But as it turned out, the reaction was even stronger than the reaction on Giant. People kept coming out of the experience telling us that now they see nature in a different way. And most importantly, they kept asking how they can help. Tree was invited to more than 70 festivals around the world, conferences, universities, and finally we have a privilege to show it to you here at the World Economic Forum. And people kept telling us everyone should see Tree, and we agree. If once you go into this headset and become a tree yourself, that is when you experience and understand on a visceral and a primal level what is going on in the world around us. Because many of us will not have that privilege to go to rainforests and to see it with our own eyes, but yet rainforests are so crucial to the survival of many species on this planet, including ours. So statistics warn us that in less than 100 years, if we don't do anything about this right now, we won't have rainforests, which means that our children and grandchildren will live in a world without rainforests. And then, what are we going to breathe? Life will not exist without oxygen, and that is how the idea for our upcoming project was born. So as a storyteller, my quest is not only to point to problems like we did in Giant and Tree, but also to point to solutions. And Breathe is there to show us how can we all improve. In Breathe, we embody a young girl who is a war survivor, and we follow her life path for the next 80 years of her life, coming from destruction, from the rubble, from the war, through her path of empowerment, overcoming fears, and her past. And in Breathe, we want to show you that, and also remind you that the world was created without borders, and it belongs to all of us. But that we all have one equal role in it. And that is, how can we all serve the planet and each other? We all need to ask ourselves, how can I help? And to get to that answer, you need to go deep inside of yourself and understand what is your true purpose on this planet and who you truly are. And to know that, you need to be brave enough to express yourself, not suppress yourself. You also need to be brave enough not to follow trends, like a short-term trends of materialism and self-absorption, but to follow timeless energy of nature, abundance, expansion, and life. I once had tendency to deny myself voice and to suppress myself. And also that same thing in me that made me want to hide and not tell these stories of Tree and Giant is the same barrier that exists in all of us. Fear is there to keep us away from doing the right thing for ourselves and for our loved ones. And fear is an all or nothing barrier. As my father used to say, afraid man is a defeated man. Once I learned that I shouldn't run away from fear, but rather run towards it, is the moment when I started uncovering who I really am with each project that I made. And what didn't make sense when I was growing up, this enormous disconnect between what was going on outside of my house and inside of my house, the warmth and love versus despair outside. Now it all kind of made sense because my parents through art gave me a tool that wasn't only a tool in form of art, that it wasn't simply distraction in a time of crisis, but it was also a tool with which I learned how to overcome crisis and face it. We all need to understand that by facing our fears, we will be uncovering who we truly are, and that is important, to be brave enough to get to who you are, who you know deep down that you can be in order to show up for yourself, for your loved ones, and for the world as we all need you to. Thank you.
Thank you, Milica. So keep your questions. Milica is coming back in the second part of this session for a Q&A with me. So our next speaker is a multidisciplinary designer working at the intersection of art and technology. She has a PhD from Carnegie Mellon University, which is in Pittsburgh, and it's a city where you can see robotic cars. You know, that's where Uber is testing their self-driving cars, for example. She founded Aton, which is a mix between a design studio and a research lab. So she sits in between design and engineering. And she's also the creator of Manus, the 10 robots you can see on the second floor and that follow you as you walk by. You should check it out. Please help me welcome Madeline Gannon.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here and to share my passion for robotics and my vision of our future together with them. So I am a designer, I'm a researcher, and I'm a robot whisperer. And what that means is that I have this uncanny ability to get robots to do things that they were never designed to do. And you may be familiar with my work if you've been upstairs. This is Manus, our pack of industrial robots. And they've traveled a very long way to see you, so I hope you go say hello to them and keep them company. But before I go on, I just want to share a bit about why I really love working with industrial robots. These machines that we see behind us, believe it or not, they have superpowers. They have superhuman strength, and they have superhuman speed and endurance. But for most of the time, it's sort of locked behind fenced-in cages in factories. And these machines, for all their amazing abilities, have also become a symbol of what the negative impacts of rapidly advancing technologies can have on our lives. So they've become to represent this sort of existential crisis for our own obsolescence, robots replacing humans in the workforce. And with everything that we're working on here in the World Economic Forum, focusing on Industry 4.0, when that comes to life, we're going to have machines that are not just used for automation, but that are also autonomous. They have a mind to act on their own. So how are we going to coexist with these machines that we don't directly control? What should our relationship be with this incredible technology that also is kind of in conflict with a lot of our own reasons for being? And in my work, I try to find ways to use robots to transform these machines to expand, augment, and enhance human capabilities and not replace them. And this is the future that I work to create. So this was a really incredible experience to develop this software. Let me go back one slide. Let's see here. What was amazing about it is that I got to spend many, many hours with this robot. here. So her name is Abba. And after a while of working so closely with her, I started to feel a bit like this. Like I was this person standing in front of this monstrous beast that could obviously crush me, but decided instead to not. And it made this really interesting metaphor for me, thinking about robots as creatures and not things. It was incredible for when this machine moved in such a lifelike way, I felt this bond with it that was not unlike this robot, the walrus tamer in this Victorian zoo. And I had an opportunity to really explore these ideas out in the public at the Design Museum in London. Let's see here. Looks like this slide. Here we go. So this was a really incredible opportunity. I was invited to a brand new exhibition called Fear and Love to sort of address our fears and anxieties and our hopes for our future with automation. So what I decided to do was to bring an industrial robot to come live in the Design Museum, almost like a zoo animal, so people could have this face-to-face contact for the very first time with this important piece of manufacturing infrastructure that they've probably never seen before. So let me introduce you to Mimas. Here she is greeting the ceiling installers. The museum was just opening up for the very first time. And you can see them kind of teasing her and playing around with her. So to take Mimas from a piece of manufacturing equipment into this lifelike creature required some significant technical development on my part. So here you see the sensors that we use to give her eyes to see the world. These cameras that we use are tracking depth, and they're able to see people as just these blobs. And these blobs are enough to extract useful information about how people exist in space. So for example, we know how tall someone is, how close they've been to Mimas, how long they've been with Mimas, and we can extract some parameters like trust or friendliness, or perhaps if you're small and you've been moving around a lot, you're a child, and maybe Mimas should go visit you first. So being able to correlate people's position in space and how long they've been there with the robot's own body language was really critical to developing this interaction design with Mimas. And I chose to really focus on the materials that are native to this robot, just her pose, her posture, and the sound of her motors. And the goal was to really push the boundaries of what we can communicate with just the things that are, again, inherent and native to these machines, as if they were these living creatures. So here she is, come to life in the museum. It was a really incredible experience to spend the day with these kids. They're the digital champions of their year 5 in the school in London. And they was so caught on so quickly to how the robot would see and respond to them. And what was really interesting is that for them, this is a new normal, that robots don't need to be static and stiff and mechanical, that they can be attentive and empathetic partners in everyday life. And when we see machines like this move with such lifelike and animate behaviors with purpose through space, as humans, we instinctively project our own intelligence and our own emotion onto this empty vessel. One of the benefits of doing a highly public project as well is that you can, even an ocean away, spy on your robot with social media. So I used Instagram as my nanny cam to check on my robot. And here, if we turn up the volume a little bit, you can actually hear her motors. So with this really limited palette that we had for, there she is. Oh, I haven't heard her in a while. With this really limited palette of materials for this interaction design, it was incredible the range of emotions that we could elicit. So some people thought that she was curious and playful. Other people couldn't help but tease her. And then other people had a bit more flirtatious and maybe a bit more lewd ideas for what Mimas would be used for. The other aspect of this was that there's this feeling also of kind of creepiness and maybe even distrust at this big, monstrous machine seeming so much like an animal, so attentive and forthcoming with us. And these are all really valid feelings that we need to understand if we're going to design better ways for these machines to enter into our life in a human-centered and inclusive way. So this feedback from Mimas was really critical to what inspired this next project, Manus, that is debuting here for the very first time. So the World Economic Forum commissioned me to, again, think about these new frontiers of human-robot relations. As these machines become smarter and more independent and join us in our life, how exactly are we going to communicate and have meaningful, not just productive, but meaningful relationships with these incredibly powerful and versatile machines? So Manus is a set of 10 industrial robots that are all imbued with these animal-like behaviors. And although we're seeing 10 arms here, they actually share the same mind, the same central brain. And it's one of the most amazing affordances of autonomous robots that, unlike us, their understanding of the world is not bound to their bodies. It's distributed through an environment. So I created Manus again to really, as a way to sort of probe into the future. It's a very rare experience today to be surrounded by autonomous robots, but that future is coming very soon. As Laurent mentioned, I am based in Pittsburgh, where I walk next to autonomous robots that don't look like us and don't act like us, these self-driving cars, every single day. So Manus is an opportunity to step into that future today. So for you, the idea of being surrounded by autonomous robots, it may seem daunting, it may seem intimidating, and it may seem scary, and that's perfectly understandable. But with Manus, I hope to show that with our existing technology today, robots that currently are in factories and are standard products, that these machines, that even if they don't look like us or don't act like us, they can be reconfigured and tuned with emotions that can still connect us. So I encourage you to go visit Manus and say hello and see for yourself how they make you feel. Thank you so much.
You can stay on stage. If you could please move towards the stage, we're going to welcome Milica back to the stage. There is a common word that I've heard both of you say, which is the word emotion. So you're using these very advanced technologies to create emotions. And Milica, is that the big difference in VR and versus classical movies, that you can take people to emotional territories that triggers them to really want to change their life or act for the environment, for example?
I think what VR has is that VR can place us inside the story so that we can become a protagonist, a main character of the story, so that we can feel like things are happening directly to us. And we as humans tend to take care really the most about our immediate problems. Problems that we feel personal to us are the biggest problems to us. So in a way, VR is there to even create a problem for you, a new problem to experience, so that you can relate more to other problems, other humans, nature, and other things. So I think that is the
It's a way to reconnect people to experiences that they don't know. Like, for example, the ICRC has an experience where you become a refugee in VR, and so you can relate to what these people are living. Can you briefly explain, because I don't think people are familiar necessarily with the differences between VR, MR, and AR? Just like very briefly, so that everybody knows the vocabulary. So virtual reality.
Oh yeah. So virtual reality, you put the virtual reality headset on, and you don't see this room anymore.
You're fully immersed.
You're fully somewhere else, where the creator wanted you to be. But in AR, or some people call it augmented or mixed reality, is actually you put the headset, or you can even use your phone and point it. So you still see this room, but now you also see 3D layers all around the room. So let's say Maybe movies of the future will be that the crime scene will be just here happening right in front of our eyes as we're here in this room.
So that's Magic Leap, HoloLens, for example. These are the technologies that mix virtual elements with the real world. Madeline, I was very impressed by your work because you can talk to robots, and I cannot even get my kids to do what I want. So that's very, very good.
Send them back to the factory.
Yes, send it back to the factory. You know, you live in this strange world where robots are not things, they're creatures. People are not humans, they're blobs. That's a very, very interesting world. I think you make a key point when you say that machines are not going to replace humans. And there's this huge fear right now about humans getting irrelevant and us getting out of work. Can you explain why you carefully avoided using the word replace and you used augment, for example, or complement?
Yeah, for me, a lot of the fears and anxieties we have, I think, stem from a lack of agency, that we're not participants in deciding how this future arrives. So a lot of the work that I do that tries to take this advanced technology out of a lab and into cultural settings or into public settings like the forum really strives to educate a bit and give permission to people to have opinions, to imagine the future that they want. So I also have fears of our technology coming too quickly, breaking things too readily. But we also have to have the strength of our imagination to design and go towards the future that we actually want.
There are actually studies, I think Deloitte did the studies in 2011. We have 140 years of job market data, and they show that technology always creates jobs, and technology destroys occupations, which is very different from jobs. If you would play bowling 50 years ago, there would be kids putting back the pins, and now it's machine doing that. And that's like thousands of jobs that have been lost. Do we have questions in the room? Sir, we are going to give you a microphone. Please state your name and your question, please.
Oh, yes. At first, thank you very much for that. Yeah, my name is Carsten Otto. I come from Germany, from the Kaizen Institute. I have a question to you. I'm an old man, yeah? I remember when I want to have a phone call, I use a call box on the street, yeah, with a phone, with a dial plate and a cable. That's my word. Yeah. And but I learn a lot about robots and so on. And I work together with companies like Siemens and so on. They use it. I have a question, depend the ethics, yeah? I learned that a robot do nothing what you not have programmed with algorithms and so on. Question, is it possible, when I listen from self-learning robots, is it possible that a robot make decisions what you not have programmed?
So is it possible for the robot to make decisions?
They haven't been programmed for. That's where you're supposed to speak about machine learning, I suppose.
And artificial intelligence. And
yes.
So this is an active area of research, and there's a lot of amazing work happening in software that writes its own software for itself. And robots are physical manifestations of software. All they are is just a big pile of metal and motors with a computer and a brain. So anything we can get a computer to do, we can get a robot to do. So this question of will robots program themselves, in some ways, snippets of this reality are already happening in industry when sensor information, it gets piped into a machine learning algorithm, and the data improves over time, so the robot in a factory knows to pick that and not pick that. It's a very constrained, very, very narrow definition of artificial intelligence, but we're starting to see snippets of it actually surface in industry.
Sir, we're going to take your question, and Madame after.
Hi, my name is Pablo Quintanilla. I'm with Salesforce, and thank you for your presentations. I have a quick question for Milica. Sorry if I mispronounced your name.
It's Milica.
Sorry?
I trained one day to say correctly. Milica.
Okay. Well, the question is this: the sort of the AR, the VR set, of course, is enabling because it allows people to sort of be immersed in these stories, but it's also limiting because not everybody has this. And so how do you think about that question? In other words, how to immerse more people quickly if not everybody has access to it?
That is a very important and big question that everyone is trying to answer. The truth is that, like, for example, here we can only show 3 to 4 people at the same time. And every 15 minutes we can show to 1 person, which brings us to, what, 4 people a time per headset. And then we have here thousands of participants. So we can't really show to all of them. So that is a problem. And another problem is that obstacle, let's say, is that people don't have headsets in houses. And I think it's because the technology is still not developed enough. Headsets are too expensive, too complicated to use. Like in several years, maybe people will start having them in the houses. But I think the temporary solution for that is cell phones. Because cell phones are capable of having AR mode, and we all have them. So now one of our next projects is actually we are creating a rainforest mobile game, where with the AR mode, you will be able to have a real scale rainforest in your room, wherever you are. Just by pointing your phone around, you will be tapping on the screen and playing the game. So that's, for us, how we resolved the problem of scalability, because VR is very, like we can't reach masses at the moment with VR.
But it's exactly what's happening with video games, that 20 years ago you had arcade rooms, and to play fancy video games with good hardware, you had to go and put a $1 bill and play, and then it became a home technology, and VR in 15 years is going to be probably a home technology. But today there's a lot of VR arcades opening all around. I saw some in Beijing, in Seoul, there are some, and it becomes a thing. Actually, people go to these the games where they have to escape games, etc. It's a big deal with the younger generation. Miss, you had a question?
Yeah, thank you. Bojo from IHS Market. My question is for the cool robotics. Thank you very much for the presentations. Very, very cool. And also, I've noticed you made conscious comments on how human fear of the robots. So you use enhanced rather than replacement, right? But when I watch the video, I think a part of fear from our own experience of any machinery could malfunction. But also, as you mentioned, the machine that's showing it has a superhuman strength. It also coming a superhuman size. So I have one quick question for you is, during your design, why does your robot come in such a big size rather than a tiny, cute little robots, right? And 2 is, do you think there's something for the industry, for the robotics industry to do, help the human to ease the fear of such a superhuman machinery that could potentially malfunction or could potentially solve the problem we don't want them to solve? Thank you.
Well, the first answer is really easy. Big robots are amazing. They're just so awesome because they're so powerful and they can crush you. And that's really exciting. For me, that's really exciting. That's why I like working with them, But to your point, the manufacturing applications of this are always trying to find ways. Now we're shifting again from robotic automation to robotic autonomy, where we're hoping in manufacturing context to work more closely with these machines. And if they're big, giant robots, there are potentials for absolute dangers with malfunctions. So why don't we have robots that communicate their malfunctions like any other living animal, I think that people should be afraid of robots when the robots are doing something scary, right? It should trigger our instinct to step back, even if we don't only see the robot out of the corner of our eye. Currently, when we work with robots in tight spaces, we have to look at a screen, a debug screen, look inside the robot's brain, and we have to be trained in order to do this. But if we go for a walk in the woods and we see a bear, we instinctively know that that is dangerous and we should probably step back a bit and not try to pet it. So as humans, we have these instincts that I believe as designers we can tap into and use in a constructive and legible and honest way. Big, scary robots shouldn't look cute. They should communicate the action that they would like you to do, in my opinion.
It's funny, when you talk about robots and projecting human or feelings on robots, people find it always odd. And I tell them, but did you have a teddy bear when you were a kid? You know, it's also an object on which we project feelings, and we do that all the time. There's actually a very interesting article about automation. It's in The Atlantic, and it says, robots are coming for your job, especially if you're a man. Because traditionally, the men had an advantage in the workplace because of their physical force, and robots are erasing that. And the point of the article was that we're going towards a world that hopefully is dominated by women. And because I have 3 daughters, and they will have to pay my retirement, I was very happy about that idea. Sir, did you have a question?
So, my name is Xin Horien. If there's no technological limitation, if there's no financial limitation, what would you do with VR?
If there was no financial limitation or technological limitation, what would you be doing with VR right now?
It's a great question.
Yeah, because there are so many, financial and technological limitations. Well, I think what's to me now most interesting is like a multiplayer experiences where you can all be right now in the headset, have avatars, see each other, and create something together or play games together. I think social experiences are, to me, the most exciting in VR.
There's actually some projects that you can see in Facebook is working on that with the Oculus Rift, where you like share the space in Pittsburgh. I didn't know that. Yeah. And you can actually collaborate with people, and Microsoft also is doing that. Like you can put an object and architects can work together and rotate a model of something they're working on. The next question, sir, I'm going to bring you a microphone. Thank you.
My question is to Milica. I understand that AR have a great effect on the people's imaginations. And do you have any idea about how people push to actual action from the VR or AR?
So how do you use AR or VR to create action, trigger action from the audience? Maybe the gentleman is a marketer. He's like, can I get people to... Educator.
Well, first step is to, I think, understand emotionally. So that's what our experiences do. Make you understand and feel that problem and actually care about that problem enough in order to do something about it. Then next step, like after 3, for example, when you finish the experience, we were giving you a gift. And we give you the seed of a tree that you were with a message. Take this seed as a reminder to keep our forest standing. And with the website, of the Rainforest Alliance, that was our partner, where there are solutions to this problem. So it really depends which topic and what is the solution to that topic. Maybe solution can be embedded in a VR. Maybe it is outside after you finish the experience. So it varies.
Do we have time for one last question? There's somebody. Otherwise, I get to ask more questions. It seems that the view on artificial intelligence is a bit changing now. There was a lot of excitement, and then the autonomous car is obviously not that close to what maybe was originally thought. Mm-hmm. And now there starts to be a bit of skepticism, and some people say maybe autonomous cars are 30, 40 years away. What do you think? How close are we from having these smart technologies that we've been promised for so long really into our lives?
Yeah, it feels, especially I have a skewed point of view being in a city where we see self-driving cars. But for a lot of this technology, I think the problems that we're having is this transition phase, right? So the fact that when we have self-driving cars, there's also going to be many non-self-driving cars, and this handoff problem for when the artificial intelligence is leading and when we're leading. And that, at its core, is a human problem, a human interface design problem. And it's because we need better interfaces to this black box technology. We're not going to be engineers and electricians and roboticists to have to operate our self-driving cars or drones. We need to have tools and interfaces that are just as intuitive as our steering wheel once the steering wheel is gone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of jobs created with that. I guess if you deploy a fleet of autonomous vehicles, you will need people to refuel them and clean them and a lot of things. A fleet of autonomous cars on a Saturday evening in Los Angeles. I'm not sure you can leave the cars by themselves for too long. Milica, quick question. The remaining 20 seconds, is it easy to produce VR? I mean, are the tools kind of accessible? Can anybody do it with a bit of patience and talent? Or is it another barrier to entry?
So I have 4 seconds to answer.
No, we can take 20, 30 seconds more.
No, it's not that easy, really. I mean, it is accessible to everyone. You know, these are software. Some of them are even for free, the game engine we use. It is available for everyone, but also, like, if you want to hire the team of developers, you need really specialized knowledge. And it's such an early stage that there's not that many people doing it. And also, technology is very expensive. So it is.
That's another barrier to entry to your
it
field.
is possible, but it takes a lot to make it.
Thank you very much. Please, warm round of applause to our speakers, Madeline Gannon and Milica Zec. Thank you very much, ladies. Have a good afternoon.